Hey everyone and welcome back to my COD Zombies Retrospective series, looking back at cut content, lore, story, gameplay and the overall history of Call of Duty Zombies as a mode across various different games. And today I'll be looking specifically into the COD Zombies map, SHI no NUMA, the Swamp of Death.
Oh, those don't sound like freak bags.
So, SHI no NUMA first released on June 2nd, 2010 for COD World at War as a part of Map Pack 2. SHI no NUMA is from a time where zombies as a mode was still growing from the innovations found in Nacht und Toten and Verrückt. SHI no NUMA also reuses assets from the World at War multiplayer maps, Macon, as well as Knee Deep, with the description of the map being as follows. Maggot-ridden corpses, bug-infested swamp, hundreds of undead Imperial army, choose your tactic and defend for your lives. SHI no NUMA also shifted the dynamic of protecting a room and sort of being a tower defense, protect the bunker mode, from changing it to a mode where you essentially roam around the map fighting off the undead, setting off traps and sort of training. I feel like training really sort of originated in SHI no NUMA, which was a very subtle change overall. SHI no NUMA in terms of map layout takes place in a swamp surrounded by a dense jungle with 4 huts connected by a central building with by-piers and also a zip line. The map works wonders. You've got, your 4 huts and then the massive open area in the middle. Well, I say massive, but at the time SHI no NUMA was quite a big map. So in terms of the map's overall arcing lore and story, SHI no NUMA is a very interesting, in these departments, as this was one of the only maps to feature in both the Aether and Dark Aether storylines, so I will be splitting up sections of this video into the Aether and Dark Aether storylines. Within the Aether storyline, so this is the classic World at War Black Ops 1 Black Ops 3 story, in the map is the location of the Rising Sun facility where Division 9, more so with Zetsubo no Shima in Black Ops 3, and then Group 935, the Edward Richtofen Maxis-led group all throughout World at War Black Ops 1 etc., all work together to develop wonder weapons and experiment on the undead using Element 115, as an Element 115 meteor can be found just outside of the map, and it has actually been changed depending on which version you play. You can see the sort of red and brown version in the old school Call of Duty, World at War Black Ops 1, and then obviously the sort of neon blue aesthetic found in maps like Origins and Der Eisendrache, and it was updated for Black Ops 3. But SHI no NUMA is also a massive map, as this was where the original 4 characters were introduced for the very first time, being Edward Richtofen, a sociopathic Nazi scientist, Tank Dempsey, a very gung-ho marine, Takeo Masaki, a honor-bound, emperor-loving Japanese sword fighter, and Nikolai Belinsky, a drunk Russian with far too many wives. With their story boiling down to the test subjects and Richtofen fighting through SHI no NUMA's test site to recover Richtofen's diary, and then teleporting to Deriza via the use of the Wunderwaffe DG2. And so, like I said, there wasn't really much to the story back then. Again, this was where the story was sort of first evolving between Verrückt and SHI no NUMA. But then separately within the Dark Aether storyline, the map became a dig site for the Nazis and Der Wahrheit to uncover insights about the Elder Gods in Vanguard. Again, the Dark Aether storyline tried to set up a prequel in terms of Vanguard, however it just wasn't as successful as the original classic story. SHI no NUMA was the first map to introduce story tidbits outside of the map itself, such as radios, Peter McCain's hanging body from the spawn room, notes about the Wunderwaffe DG2, Group 935, Division 9 and much more, and overall it did a great job at creating mystery and intrigue in the storyline. Even the Dark Aether variant, I'd say out of all of the Vanguard maps, the SHI no NUMA remake is probably the best map for doing this, with radios and notes, things, and being told things during the main quest. So in terms of gameplay features, with the innovations set up in the map Verrückt, which we have talked about previously in this series, if you want to go watch that video, SHI no NUMA followed suit by building upon the World at War formula. In SHI no NUMA, the player was introduced to a much bigger map area with the zipline, gondolas, which added a sense of verticality and traversal never before seen in a zombies map. Now this sort of, I guess, verticality and traversal was then used in maps later on, such as Shangri-La, COD of the Dead, and you've even got the gondola returning in maps like Mob of the Dead. These were also really cool to ride over the top of, other players and zombies underneath you. Fun fact, the gondola can actually kill zombies underneath you, so be wary of that if you've got a last zombie in a round. But yeah, it's just a really cool thing, and it also can be used to, narrowly escape death. Say for example you're in the middle hut, you can then use the gondola to travel to safety on the other side. SHI no NUMA also added random perks to the map. In each area of the map there were 4 buildings / landmarks such as the doctor's quarters, fishing hut, etc. When opened, these will always reveal a random perk, within making sure that the game will be different throughout each playthrough. Fun fact, in different versions of the mode, you can actually hear the jingle before you enter the hut. In World at War, SHI no NUMA was also the first map to introduce a brand new wonder weapon aside from the ray gun, being the Wunderwaffe DG2. The Wunderwaffe was a lightning-based weapon that can take out entire trains of zombies at once using chained lightning. This gun is so iconic, and it's one of the best wonder weapons of all time, as well as the most nostalgic to use. I mean, even something as simple as the gun noises, the reload animation, it's just so iconic to zombies as a mode, hence why this gun keeps coming back again and again and again in maps like COD of the Dead, Black Ops 3, and even Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3 zombies. SHI no NUMA also added the dog rounds, clones and copies of Samantha's dog Fluffy appearing with the iconic "Fetch me their souls." These dogs run at the player and then reward you with a max ammo afterwards. These rounds at a time were not only added more challenge to the mode, as the dogs can run at you at high speeds, especially in World at War where you have much less health, they can really surround you and down you pretty quickly. But the dogs also added another way to get a max ammo other than RNG, which sometimes really comes in at clutch moments where maybe you've just finished a round on round like 180 and then you have a dog round the next round, and then you can finish that round and get a max ammo. Other than the big new features, SHI no NUMA also added lots of quality of life improvements, like a light for the mystery box so players can see where it is at all times throughout the map, the return of the electro traps from Verrückt, with the addition of a brand new trap known as the Flogger. This is one of the most iconic landmarks and elements to SHI no NUMA, as it's something that really, other than Revelations, just hasn't been reused since. The Flogger is 2 massive logs with spikes that rotate to eliminate hordes of the undead. This trap was so cool, but back in the day I'd always down myself using it. Either that or you could go like prone underneath the Flogger and just escape it. SHI no NUMA also brought back super sprinters, whilst also introducing muddy water in the swamp that slows players down, but not the zombies and dogs, depending on which version you're playing. This really added to the map's overall theme, whilst also creating interesting training opportunities and traversal around the map. However, exclusive to the Vanguard remake of the map, they added a brand new area called the Dig Site, which is a brand new remade area in between the storage hut and the comm room. Accessible either via those two areas, requiring 1,000 points to open. The site features the pack-punch machine as well as a crafting table, as well as a more wider open area that I'd personally use to train in. This is one of my favourite training spots of all time in any zombies map. It's just really good and it's just really open. So in terms of map appearances and other cameo appearances, other than World at War, SHI NUMA also features in Black Ops 1 via the Hardened Edition or Resurrection map pack, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 via the Zombie Chronicles map pack, which essentially remade and remastered all of the World at War maps and some of the Black Ops 1 and Origins as well. And then obviously you had Call of Duty Mobile, which actually had the entire mode since removed. iOS Zombies, which is separate from Call of Duty Mobile, as well as COD Online, which is a Chinese Call of Duty mode, which SHI NUMA was remade as a Cyborg Rising map, as well as of course the SHI NUMA remake in Call of Duty Vanguard. Black Ops 1 added the Black Ops 1 weapons as well as Mule Kick as a part of the Resurrection map pack in DLC 4. Black Ops 3 added the Black Ops 3 weapons, the Wunderfizz, the Gobblegum machines, Pack-a-Punch weapons via Gobblegums, the Ray Gun Mark II, as well as changing Quick Revive's location to the spawn room to better fit, I guess, the flow of the map, especially in solo. But I'd say that the biggest changed version other than COD Online of the map was the remake for Call of Duty Vanguard. In Vanguard Zombies, SHI NUMA firstly appeared as a cut-off area inside of Durangfang as one of the objectives, but then became its own remade map, changing the Perca-Colas for demonic fountains, new radios, storyline cutscenes, voice lines rather, adding in the Vanguard systems such as salvage, crafting, the Book of Hearts and things like that, and the different upgrades you can have in Vanguard, as well as both a quest for the Wunderwaffe DG2, as well as a main quest Easter egg, which was the best in Vanguard by far, but that's not really saying too much. So in terms of Easter eggs, let's split them up into the Ether and Dark Ether versions. The Ether version of the map doesn't feature a main quest Easter egg, but does feature lots of side quests, such as the new song The One, which will be activated by interacting 3 times with a telephone radio in the comm room, which is obviously by Kevin Sherwood and Elena Siegman. New radios on both versions of the map, with, in my opinion, the best radio of all time in COD Zombies, or at least one of them, being the radio that plays in Spawn.
R-4808N 371406.
Then in the Black Ops 3 Zombies Chronicles versions, you get some Manfred's dolls that as they reappear as a part of Zombie Chronicles as a hide and seek quest, as well as showing off the Tunguska meteorite outside of the map, as well as loads of little hidden features, different writings, notes, things on the wall, things outside of the map, were just fantastic in terms of setting up the story, in terms of little Easter eggs for players to find out of bounds. In the Dark Ether variant, in terms of Easter eggs, in Vanguard Zombies, the map not only features a quest line to obtain the Wunderwaffe DG2, but the map also features an Easter egg quest with an ending cutscene, which was a welcome change from Vanguard's lackluster first 2 maps that did not launch with Easter egg quests. But don't worry, I'll talk more about the remake of SHI NUMA in its own dedicated video, as technically it is its own map, similar to how Tag der Toten is different to Call of the Dead. So welcome back to Trivia Time. This part of the series is obviously where I give you a few cool facts from the map, so let's get started. So did you know this is the only map in World at War to change the zombie model overall? Each zombie going from obviously the German World War II zombies seen in like Nacht Tod and Verrückt, and then changing them to the Japanese Imperial forces to better suit the map's theming. Did you know, in the Black Ops 3 version, a brand new radio featuring Dr. Monty appears, detailing the background on the map and confirming old theories. Dr. Monty actually appears in radios throughout Nacht und Toten, as well as Verrückt as well, and he sort of talks about the description of the map, how he came up with them, and again just details little Easter eggs around the map. As I briefly stated earlier, did you know in the Zombie Chronicles version of SHI NUMA, you can find out which perks are behind each doors without actually opening each of the side huts. By standing near the doors and listening to the jingles, you can actually find out which perk is in that building. And finally, did you know, according to the game files in Call of Duty World at War, there were actually meant to be different versions of the classic 4 perks. These perks would have looked battered, rusted, and covered in moss and vines to better suit the swamp theme. Juggernog, Quick Revive, Double Tap, and Speed Cola were all meant to be covered in like moss and dust and things like that, and personally I think this was a really cool feature that should have been implemented on the map. However, this was later scrapped, as well as a similarly designed different power switch, as well as some other features which were going to have different variants for SHI NUMA based in the swamp. So in conclusion, SHI NUMA, like Verrückt, is an iconic classic World at War zombies map, and it did a lot for players to, innovate the series going forward. However, I feel like SHI NUMA as a map is greatly underappreciated. Its unique theme, traversal options with the gondola, and the introduction of the Hellhounds, one of the most iconic wonder weapons of all time being the Wunderwaffe DG2, the Boxlight, and other game mode staples that we quite frankly take for granted nowadays, make it stand out in the World at War quadology of maps. And again, you really have to give SHI NUMA credit, as it introduced the 4 Ultimus characters, Richtofen, Tank Dempsey, Takeo, Nikolai. These are not only some of my favourite characters in zombies, but these, in my opinion, are, some of my favourite characters in gaming. I think back in the day, everyone loved one of these 4 characters for a very specific reason. Everyone had their favourite, and SHI NUMA was the catalyst for maps like Dereza and Moon and Origins and going forward, so SHI NUMA had a lot to work with. However, I think, in my personal opinion, I've had to play, several hours for the making of this video to get the background footage, and SHI NUMA is not one of my favourite maps. I'd say it's quite lower down, sort of on the tier list, but I think that's purely for the fact there's not really much to do in World at War. Obviously Black Ops 3 and Vanguard, there's a bit more to do in the map, but again, there's just not really a whole lot to do in World at War and Black Ops 1 once you've, by round maybe 15, opened up the entire map. You've got all your weapons, etc. You're just sort of training until the map ends, and again, it's one of those. SHI NUMA, I think, is a great map for theming and sort of horror aspects, as well as little Easter eggs here and there, as well as an absolute banger of an Easter egg song. But it's not one of my favourites, comparing it to something like Der Eisendrache, Mob of the Dead, etc. Anyway, that's been the video. Thank you so much for watching the video today, and if you want to watch videos on something like Kino de Toten, Transit or Verrückt, I've already got those maps covered, and you can find a playlist for the Zombies map retrospective series in the comment and description below. Thank you so much for watching the video today, and let me know in the comments what map do you want to see next on the series. I've been Lockhart QT, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.